From TMP to TTNG, for sure the cure and those tired meme jeans. Hella Kinsella and the promise ring. Sunny day, real estate and rights this spring. Prince Twinkle daddies help keep the dream alive. I constantly thank God for Algernon and Remo Christie front drive. Mineral, snowing, high tide hotelier and more. Rio Limo only consists of the DC emotive hardcore. But you gotta admit, Kyle and Ellie really on that emo bullshit. You gotta admit that Kyle and Ellie really on that emo bullshit. Have you heard the tired and disavowed lonely word? Have you heard the disavowed and lonely word? Have you heard the lonely disavowed word? Have you heard the tired and lonely disavowed word?
This is episode 46. I said 46 last time, and everyone was like, yeah, that's right. This is episode 46 for real.
46B.
So, this is our final A Decade Under the Influence album episode. We're going to keep it going with some interviews and such, and we still have to do the 2019 rest of episode. And the winner, by literally 2 votes, it became 2 votes between the winner and the runner-up, which was Prince Daddy, but the winner went to third-time guest of the podcast, Origami Angel.
Wait, really? I didn't know that's what this episode was about. Damn, that's sick. Was that the end of the year thing?
Yeah.
Wait, are you serious that you didn't know that you won? Holy shit.
I think someone told me that we won on tour, but I thought it was like of the month type thing. We got the year one?
You got album of the month on the subreddit, but this podcast is no longer affiliated with the subreddit. This is something completely else. No, you got album of the year.
Holy shit. That's really cool.
So we're only going to talk about that album on this podcast.
I just walked into this. All right, sick. Dope. All right, cool. Wow.
This is great. That was like the most wholesome thing that's maybe ever happened on this podcast.
It's like the only wholesome thing that's happened on this podcast.
I don't think that's the only wholesome. As a rule, I'm pretty unwholesome, but I think Kyle is like, old school Midwestern wholesome, so it balances out.
Well, yeah. You were like completely offended when I said jizz on the podcast.
That's true. It's gross. Don't ever say it again.
Damn.
Actually, no. I'll make it. I'll pay you. I will like. No, that's not true. I'm poor. I was gonna say I'll PayPal you like $25 if you say the word cummies on the podcast. I can't afford that.
So yeah, we're gonna be diving deep into Somewhere City.
Shit. Okay.
Which someone was like, "Are you even gonna do a 2019 episode?" Because it's like recency bias, and I think the way that people voted, it was like there weren't that many other options of like definitive like this album dominated 2019, and I mean I think
it was gonna be either you or Prince Daddy. Like, no question.
Yeah, well, we just got it because we released our album later.
I don't know, like
I do. No, maybe. Who knows?
No, just because the hype like for your album just like fucking exploded.
I guess so. They had like the hypest album campaign ever. I mean, that's a great album too. Yeah.
Oh, we got stuff. We got stuff in this rundown about how hype your rollout was, though. So,
which is a good point to bring up that like your album rollout and the Prince Daddy album rollout were both very elaborate. Prince Daddy was doing the like posting like corners of the album thing for like seemed like forever.
Yeah, that was really cool. I liked that a lot.
I think this is how you market a fucking album in 2019, 2020. Like, no more of that fucking soon posting like a date, and then on the date you post soon and post another date. Like, We're fucking done with that shit. This is Gami gang marketing 101.
But I think it's cool because like a lot of like just like the releases this year had a very cool online but not like overbearing marketing scheme, marketing tactic or whatever. Especially like I feel like the Future Teens rollout was really cool. Like everything that they did with that and just like how they tied into like the releases of their singles and stuff like that and how it came out. And I think it's just like obviously as the idea of an E-band becomes more and more the norm, like that's just like what this whole rollout idea is going to gravitate to, you know, like streaming based online, like Twitter based music, you know, it's kind of crazy that it's like, that's effective. You know, it's weird that it is effective, but I think it's really cool to see that have sort of a response and like kind of have a direct link between an audience and a, you know, artist. It's interesting and it's cool. And I think it's an honor to like that people consider it like what we did really cool is just because like, I don't know, for us, we were just like, we want to do something fun, you know, we want to do something that we haven't done before, right. Which is kind of how we come in and approach every like new release that we do is just like, let's do something we haven't really tried yet and see where it goes. And then, you know, me, Lex and Pat came up with this rollout thing and people seem to like it. And, you know, a lot of people put a lot of hard work in. Jamie Coletta put a lot of hard work in. Lex put a ton of hard work in. We worked kind of hard, you know, and it makes me really happy that people thought it was dope because I thought it was dope too, honestly. And that's cool.
Do you think that it was kind of jarring because like you were seen as, I mean, you still are seen because you are still a DIY band, but like most DIY bands are doing the things that we just talked about where they spam fucking Midwest emo posting with a song dropping tomorrow, here's a still from the fucking music video, and then that's their marketing plan. It's just a spam. So do you think like this was new territory for DIY followers?
I wouldn't say that it's like necessarily new territory because I feel like as far as like the greater whole of DIY, there have been some pretty cool online campaigns and stuff like that, and not just doing the big things coming soon. Here's a music video thing. I mean, obviously, like Prince Daddy was like nearly a half a year before our record. I'm trying to think of other like cool online things. The Goodness rollout was kind of cool. I was also a little bit younger then, but that, you know, but I guess that again, they were like pretty big by that time. We think about like a smaller level DIY thing. You know, I've seen really cool elements and stuff like that before, like of a rollout. And obviously I think it is just like some people don't have the resources to put in stuff like that. Some people don't have people that are going to dedicate time to doing that. And some people, you know, don't see the value just because like they might be short on time. You know, they might have other circumstances revolving around like what the core principles of their band is. So I think it's, you know, I'm not going to like shame people for not going ham, you know, like on some marketing stuff, because to different people, it's like what's important, you know, and who's to say like what the difference would be if we just did that too? Like, who knows? Like, you know, do you think the music would get by on its own? I mean, there's a case to be said where some people might say, yeah, you know, I think our shit is dope regardless of how we market it. Some people might just think that going about it the best way, or the best way of going about it is you know, hitting r/emo with the nice little drop in a single tomorrow. My
recommended if you like FFO. Yeah. No, I feel like if you put like a shit ton of effort into your music and you're super proud of it, then you owe it to yourself to put a shit ton of effort into your marketing and be really proud of that too.
That's definitely I feel the same way. But we've also like been lucky enough to have people who have like reinforced that idea. I mean, you know, we've had a manager and a former, but you know, at the time label manager in Lex, and we've had, you know, help like past Gen 3, like Jamie was there to kind of guide us along the way of press and stuff like that. So I definitely understand when some bands are, you know, just getting the feel of like what it is to release something, that they would go about it in that way that we mentioned before. Just because, you know, I feel like another thing for us that I didn't really think about till literally right now, we put out, you know, 3 releases in 2019.
Yep.
And we put out one in 2018, we put out one in 2017. Somewhere City was our 5th release as a band, and while it was our first full-length record, it's like we kind of had built up a little bit of of an idea of how to release music, how to market it ourselves and stuff like that. I feel like if we had just come out with like, you know, an EP and then an LP, or like 2 EPs and then an LP off the bat, like we wouldn't have had the disposition to kind of do what we did with Somewhere City. And I think that, you know, I'm grateful that we took that, because in the, you know, I feel like in the internet age of music, there is like a necessity in young bands' minds to want to put stuff out like immediately. Though we got to get this out right now, ASAP. You know, we need to live in the now and never, you know, plan. But and I'm guilty of that. You know, I always feel like that. I'm always like, I want people to hear what I'm doing right now. But I'm pretty glad that there are people who convinced me that it was a good idea to stick to the path that we were on and take our time and really just get better at doing what we wanted to do, and then, you know, make it the best that we could.
Fuck yeah.
That little conversation touched on like all of my questions in like a little bit of sense. So to like keep a little bit of order to what I like.
No, I'm kidding.
To what I put up here. Going back to, was it 2018 is when we did the emo freshman class, which you appeared on.
Emo freshman class.
Hell
yeah.
And that was...
It's occurred to me, we've been riding Gami's dick for like 2 full years.
Yo, that was so cool. I didn't expect to be on that shit, and it was so cool to be on it. I remember listening to that episode and freaking out.
that freshman class is like kind of proven to be all the big bands of the scene like now currently, which is cool as fuck. I think around the time that Doing the Most came out specifically is where I started to see people like outside of the circle of homies talking about you.
I'd say the same.
Like, do you know like what kind of gave you that boost around that release?
Around Doing the Most, I would say that, you know, while we were like writing and recording that and still playing shows off Quiet Hours, we had been making a lot more friends. You know, I met Dree on the second and third show we've ever played. We played at Grateful Acres. And I met Dree. We met Morning Dew. So we had homies there. And I think, you know, just like starting to become more of a part of like the internet scene and being online and shit, finding bands like us and stuff like that. Just, you know, kind of being connected with the wider group of homies. And then I genuinely do think Doing the Most was probably the biggest step up musically that we have experienced. I mean, not to, you know, rag on our first EP, because I still think it's sick. I remember when we wrote, recorded, and released Doing the Most, it was one of the most proud moments of my life, just because like it felt very real. It felt like I could see actual progress in front of my eyes, musically, and having like a wider source of homies already, like, you know, knowing about us and hearing that and seeing the improvement. I feel like there was a lot of people promoting that, and like a lot of people more willing to like invest in us just because you could see a trend and a progression, you know? And I definitely think like that's like a common thing too. Like bands' second EPs usually get like a lot. People will care a little bit more about a band if their second EP is like a noticeable improvement over their first, you know? And I think like that of, you know, worked like that. Yeah, I don't know.
Not that I didn't like Quiet Hours, because I do really like that EP. But I remember Claudio was like, "Yo, I asked Ryland if you could hear the new Gami EP," and Ryland said yes. So I'm gonna send it to you. And then I literally like texted Kyle, like basically like live tweeted Kyle and Claudio like my reaction to the EP, and my mind was
holy shit. Damn, thank you.
And you've just like upped the ante musically on like every subsequent release, to the point where like
thank you.
Well, I should probably say this when we get into the music part, but like,
all right, cool.
Sorry to fangirl.
No worries, not a problem at all.
There was like that video of you playing, I think it was ROM hack, like on a mandolin or something. Am I imagining this right? Did we lose Ryland? Sure.
Yeah.
I heard Kyle say there was a video of you playing, and then it cut out.
Okay. Was it ROM hack on a mandolin or something?
It definitely was ROM hack on a mandolin.
All right, cool.
Fuck yeah.
And I remember just like a lot of big bands like tweeting that and being like, "Yo, this band is the future" and shit like that.
Mom Jeans quote tweeted that and was like, "This band is like but they basically just said like Ryland's a really good songwriter and that like this band is going to be really important. And I remember seeing that and kind of just being like, that's got to be like a fan account, right? That's not actually Mom Jeans. Like, who did that? And then seeing the blue check mark or whatever, you know, like, or maybe they're not verified, but it was like official Mom Jeans, like the account that I followed. I started freaking out. It was crazy to get that. And there was like, there's other people like commenting on that and being like, this is really cool. I don't know why it was the mandolin video that brought that out, but I think that that's awesome. I'm really glad that I posted that. I'd never seen a direct response to it, like any sort of social media posts like that before. And yeah, it was just a video of RomHack on Twitter. It was really cool.
Yeah,
to see that sort of response.
Yeah, and like now with like Somewhere City, like I was watching the Blink-155 like Twitch stream of a movie, and then the fucking Twitch chat was all talking about Origami Angel for some reason.
Fuck.
And
I missed that. It was Riding in Vans with Boys, right? Was it good?
Yeah. Oh, that one was way better than the F word one.
Word.
Yeah, it was just like, whoa, so like this whole subculture that I'm a part of that has nothing to do with emo. I was talking about.
Say that the Blink-155 niche has nothing to do with emo. Like, I feel like there is significant overlap in our audiences.
I mean, I'm not really in the niche. I just participate in some of the things, but I know.
Oh, like, your brother's big time in the niche.
I know.
The Fentoozler. Yeah.
That's another episode. I guess pivoting to my next topic here is the obligatory question of you were putting out EPs and splits consistently, and then the LP was like in talks. Like, there's no other way to word the question than how everyone words this question. But was there a different approach to writing the LP than the EP? But I think I know this was your first time in a studio with a producer, correct?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
So the funny thing about it is like we call it like our first time in a studio, like recording a record. So we did the drums with Jake Chillwavve in a studio in Philly. We did everything else in his apartment. Like we did guitar and we did vocals. It was just with him recording instead of me recording. Except all the harmonies on the record I actually recorded in my bedroom. Word. So it was still a little bit of that DIY approach, you know. But yeah, it was definitely a step up in terms of primarily because of like what we could afford, you know. Before there was really no other option than going about it on our own. And like we could do it to an extent that we thought it fine enough for the music that we were putting out then, but we knew that when we wanted to do that that first LP, we wanted to have a noticeable step up in quality and just attention paid to it, and just, you know, going about it in a way that we felt a little bit more comfortable just focusing on the music side, you know, what we're actually playing instead of the production side too. And then Jake Chillwavve is a beast, and he always hits it out of the park, and he really just, as soon as he knows what we're going for, he nails it. And it was just great working with him. And to continue working with him, you know, he's worked on every Gami release post Quiet Hours. This is the first one he recorded, though, which is really cool.
Right. So, like, was there, having all these EPs banked up and stuff like that, like, was there any, I mean, you obviously had some scope because everything is in Somewhere City is, you know, what they flow into each other and everything. So, like, these songs were all specifically written for Somewhere City?
Yeah. So, the way that it kind of went from a writing thing was the first song that I wrote was actually the first song. Welcome To is the first song that I wrote. The first complete song I wrote was that. I had the beginning of Say Less was written like way before anything else, and that wasn't necessarily written to me on Somewhere City. It just ended up making more sense, you know? But so the first full song I wrote was Welcome To. Obviously, that's like a little preface thing. The second song that I actually wrote was Everything sans the medley reprise at the end of the Air Up Here was the last song. You know, I wrote everything except for that last ending as the second track. It wasn't supposed to be, you know, it was going to be the closer the whole time, but that was the second song I wrote. And I knew that I had like that beginning and that ending. There was actually a point in time where Somewhere City was going to be an EP, like a 6-track EP. And I remember sending Lex the demo of like a super early like acoustic demo of Welcome To. And this, we're talking like maybe like February 2018 here.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like over 2 years ago now. Oh, wow. But and she's like,
I do remember like in 2018 talking to you on Twitter, and you were like, oh yeah, I have like this double album planned.
Yeah, where did that go? I don't know, but this happened instead. But yeah, it was like some stuff got separated. Originally, it was gonna be an EP. I showed it to Lex, and she was like, "Wait a minute! Like, why are we making this an EP? Like, we could just go full out. You should write an LP around this." And I was like, "You know what? You're probably right. I could add a little depth. Blah blah blah." The track list has like almost no correlation to like what was written when. Like the second or third song that was completed was Skeleton Key. Say Less was completed pretty easily, or pretty early. Or what the fuck am I talking about? Say Less was completed pretty early. Sorry, there we go. Find Your Throne was the early one. So I had those songs and I was like, this is definitely gonna be EP. This is gonna be a banging EP, like 6 tracks, maybe 7, who knows? But then I was like, fuck it. 24-hour drive through, Doctor Who, 666 flags all got added, and then I was like, we can definitely fill this at 10 songs, and then kind of build the narrative within it. And I think that it worked out for the best. And then people stopped asking where our LP was. It was awesome. That is like one of the weirdest things. Like, people would be like, "This band just needs to drop an LP." I'm like, "We already wrote it. Like, can you just let us get to a financial position in which we can afford to record this in a proper setting?" But it's fun,
Rylan going full Tyler Stars Hollow right there.
Tyler would be like, "Buy this shirt so I can make another shirt, so we can make another shirt, so that the Stars Hollow LP can be funded." And it works. That's the method. They got it onto a science, and you know what? That's cool. Tyler's killing the game. Big brain genius. I just said big brain genius, and then took a sip of this water, and then a little bit spilled on me. So that was pretty. That was small brain, not genius. What's that called? Imbecile.
Oatmeal brained is my favorite.
Oatmeal brained. That's me.
Oatmeal brained, because like that's like the one insult that like can't get you labeled ableist like whatsoever. Because like I don't know if you know this, but like on our socialism, you get banned if you call things stupid or crazy.
Really?
Yeah. So I say oatmeal brained, or the other thing I do is I say this thing is ableist slur worthy, which is a good cop out.
Jesus Christ! Holy shit! Damn.
We're
epic.
Kyle has this question: were you pulling from any different inspirations? But I want to table that and talk about that when we get to like the full album discussion.
So there's a third member of Origami Angel that's been mentioned a couple times, and I think she needs a proper introduction, and that is Lex.
Oh yeah, yeah. Lex is our manager, and she runs Chatterbot Records, which we have been on since 2017. Yeah, pretty early on in the Chatterbot Origami Angel relationship, we developed a working relationship where she was pretty involved in this band's trajectory. And it just kind of, blossomed into, oh, she's going to be our creative manager. And, like, she's going to help me and Pat work through release ideas and rollouts and stuff like that. And while she may not contribute musically much, she's been there pretty much, not from day one, because day 1.5, let's say that,
Yeah, word.
She got on board very, very early, and we wouldn't be where we are without her. It was her birthday yesterday, so there's that.
Oh, shit. Happy late birthday, Lex.
Happy late birthday, Lex. She definitely, like, has made us a priority when she didn't really have to, which is really sick, and she saw a lot in this band that I don't really think many other people, like, with her skill set saw immediately. And it's been a real treasure to work alongside her and to continue working with her. We have no plans of stopping.
Yeah, I'm really glad that she's staying on as your manager. But by the way, congrats on the Counterintuitive signing. That's fucking huge.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. We talked about that pretty early on. Just everybody, associated with this band, I was like, no matter where we sign, like, we have to have Lex involved. And then an equal amount, we also have to have Alex Martin involved, who is our booking agent, who runs the booking agency You Got a Friend in Pennsylvania. Also, like, one of the hardest working people I know. And yeah, we wouldn't do anything without them or Lex.
Yeah, we need Alex Martin on ASAP, by the way.
Oh, that would be so cool.
It's cool that she's on still as your manager, because I feel like this isn't really a thing in DIY anymore, but I do think like I came up in a time where like if you transition even to like a bigger indie label, you'd be considered a sellout, or like betraying Chatterbot. But I think the thing that a lot of people wouldn't understand, and I'm not even like close friends with Lex, but even from a distance, I could tell that she just put so much fucking effort into the label, and Gami has been growing like so exponentially that if she continued putting in that same level of effort, like with Gami on a Chatterbot label, as well as being the manager, as well as handling every other band on the label, it would like fucking kill her.
Absolutely. Like it's crazy. Like pre-orders and stuff ended up being like something like 1,700 orders like shipped out, like
holy
some
shit.
shit like that. And you know she's still doing it like out of household, not like a warehouse. You know, some people and bigger labels do have access to that stuff, and some people are oriented more to do that shit. I think the cool thing about Chatterbot is there's always been a really cool in between of having that cool physical record game combined with that, you know, we're gonna have whatever type size bands, you know. I feel like there's a happy medium in there, but then at the same time being able to dedicate the creative effort to a rollout, being able to really find what makes a band and how to market that to people and how to tell people that they're going to enjoy it. You know, I feel like Lex has this happy medium of all three of those things. And it's just like, it works for the bands that she works with. And it's honestly pretty amazing to see. I haven't paid attention to every label in the world, but in the last couple years, I feel like Chatterbot's been a very unique label in terms of DIY. And I think they've definitely like taken a formula and like made it their own, and just it's been really sick to be a part of, you know. It's really cool, and it's you know, one of the biggest honors that I have to my name is being the first band ever signed to Chatterbot Records, you know. Like back when no one gave a shit about Gami, I would still say that. I'd be like, oh yeah, but we were the first band on Chatterbot, you know that. And everyone would be like, oh okay, I see. And I'd be like, yeah, you know we're the first band. It's just, I don't know. It's also really important to me that we've done everything through Chatterbot up to this point, because Somewhere City has been, you know, a huge thing with Lex involved, and it's like we couldn't have, you know, it wouldn't have felt right if Chatterbot wasn't at least involved in co-releasing that. And then I think it was for the best that we ended up just releasing it through Lex. On the topic of labels, you know, like Counterintuitive, it has always been in my mind like one of the coolest labels in the game. I think Jake is like literally such a baller and like does like such good work for the bands that he works with. And just like that next step label that I've always wanted to be a part of. You know, those bands are like a lot of the reason that I got into doing this shit on the level that we started doing it at, you know? So it's pretty surreal, honestly. It's cool stuff. Labels are crazy, but we're really very lucky to have been blessed with two amazing experiences so far.
Yeah, it kind of seems like Somewhere City is almost like a big like learning experience, because it's like based on the Gami Direct, which we'll get to in a second, it seemed like no one was prepared for like the explosion. Like not in like a condescending like you weren't prepared for this, but like no one was ready to blow out through a first press before the album's even out, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and it was totally a learning experience in every way because of that. It's I don't know. Yeah, it was definitely like from all different angles of it was a learning experience. But if you want to save that for the direct thing, we can do that
for sure. We talked about the album rollout, but like, I mean, there were so many phases of it. It was this Instagram account that popped up, then it was a website, then it was like a game where you like leaked the first single, and then I don't know and then there was music videos, and then it even went through this whole Gami Direct thing, really, because it was a follow-up to the album. But like, who like envisioned all this and like made it all happen?
You know, I think me and Lex are having this exact same discussion the other day. I was like, where did this start? You know, like when did this start? Because I remember having the idea, location-based album. I was like, location-based EP, LP, whatever. Somewhere City. I was like, we can do all sorts of shit with this. You know, we could market it like a vacation. I think I remember saying that, and then it was kind of like a side comment. And what happens like with us is we'll like have something like be a side comment and be like, oh, that's pretty cool for like 2 months, and then like 2 months later we're like, all right, back to that really good idea that no one remembers who came up with it. Let's fucking grind on that shit. And it always ends up like, we're like, who really thought of this? And then we kind of like, like different people will put in different levels and different ideas there, and it'll become sort of, it really is a team effort. I will say Lex is definitely the one who pushes through and makes the shit happen, because I can do that for music and nothing else in the world. I can write a record, whatever, try my hardest on that. But if it comes to like, actually, like if you were like, yo, Rylan, you need to make the somewhere.city website, I would be like, awesome, and then we'd have no website. That's just how my brain works, I guess. Not like, that's just, I don't have the wherewithal to go about that. It's an overwhelming thing that I don't know how she's so good at, to just be like, I'm gonna make this website and I'm gonna get these brochures ready, I'm gonna do this, and like, send out brochures. We have an extra brochure. Oh, let's send it to Ian Cohen. Let's send him a free brochure.
Oh shit.
Let's send people free brochures that we just, like, just because fuck it. Let's give people the shit. That was something that like you had to sign up for on day one, like when the site was like announced or whatever, before the album was even announced. But there was like leftover ones that we had, and Life was like, you think I should send this to Ian Cohen? And I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm pretty sure that's why we got a Pitchfork review.
I think it would have happened either way. Ian's been like on the grind of trying to spotlight like more DIY bands, like
the new wave.
The Floral Tattoo review, like that came out of fucking yeah.
That's sick.
Leading up to the LP release, were you noticing more hype than you anticipated?
I'm noticing more hype. Yeah. Okay. So we played one show between none of the album being out at all, like no singles, and the full album being released. And that one show was our Fest showcase at the Fest in Gainesville.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And we opened up with this way that we open a set. There's a live only song that we have called Fuck the 1%. It's just this D-beat thing. It transitions into 24-hour drive-through, and we play that song. So it's like, that's like the first real song of our set, and there was like an immediate response, like when the guitar riff like of the beginning came in. I was like, oh, that's cool. I've never heard someone just clap for a part before. That's sick. Okay, cool. And then like everyone in the front like sang Gang Vox to that whole thing, sang to a lot of it. And there was a lot of like participation during that set, but it peaked right there. And I didn't expect that, Like I was like, it's a new song. We'll see. We'll try it out. But it was like people were fucking with that shit heavy. And more so than like other stuff, like other what I thought were like more of our popular things, So I was like, damn, maybe this record is gonna, do a little bit better than like other things would have done. Even like statistically, once we released a single, we went higher like in the number game than we ever had before in terms of like Spotify listeners, Twitter followers, and shit like that. Stuff that doesn't like honestly really mean hype all the time, but like in that instance, seeing it like as a direct correlation to just a single response or just a single release and then the whole like game thing and stuff, I don't know. It was definitely like hinting at the idea that maybe, this was going to do something. Maybe. Who knows? So I definitely think that there was like a building hype, but I didn't see it like firsthand. I definitely saw a lot of people on the internet being like, I'm super ready for this album to come out and shit. But I feel like in the 2 weeks after the record's released, that's like when it became its like peak thing that I was like, oh, this is different, like than anything we done. Like it's different than what I expected, which is, I guess, it makes sense that it would be that way. Like after the record's out, after people can dive into it. Yeah. It's also weird because like I've always kind of been like, if people are hyping this stuff, I'm like, no, we're just tricking them. They're actually not hype. They're gonna fall off that shit. They just got tricked by us. It's an illusion, and they'll fall off.
Yeah, one of the funniest things that I witnessed was when Pitchfork like tweeted the review of the album, like the like chain of Gami game comments went for like a fucking like
350 responses.
Yeah, it was just like a fucking physical mile of people saying Gami game.
I can't remember where I was when that happened. I think
You're probably on tour, right?
I don't think it was on. Maybe it was. No, I think it was like right before we left for the Team tour, because I remember Short Fictions got theirs while we were on tour with them.
All right.
And I think we had already had ours for like at least a month. I think it was like the beginning of December or something. I can't remember. I just remember that was like the weirdest day to just be on the internet, because it was like half MFs being like, hell yeah. And then just other people being like, fuck Pitchfork. This shit sucks. And I was like, yo, okay. This is weird. I remember like I had to delete Twitter after that day. I was like, this is crazy. This is really cool that they wrote about this shit, but it's very weird. Very weird to be perceived. Let me just say that.
Yeah, I mean,
very odd.
This is way different than like when I was staying up till midnight just to see what new albums were reviewed on Pitchfork, because that's what I would listen to. But like now when I see if a band's reviewed on Pitchfork, like, is someone checking out an album because of Pitchfork? I don't know. It seems like it's just like a validation thing at this point.
Yeah, it's like a cosmic reinforcement.
Right.
I would definitely say it's more of that, because I don't know like how much it really helped like with exposure. There were definitely people that were like, yo, I listened to your thing because of Pitchfork. I had seen your name before, but I listened to it because the record was reviewed. And I'm like, that's cool. You know, I'm glad that happened. But I don't know like what the numerical difference is, because I feel like in a prior state of music journalism, it definitely it could make or break a career, you know, like a 9.0 versus a 2.2 could make or break like a band's following. But I feel like it's a little bit of a different placeholder now, that it's like, so that now that, you know, like the way that music is on social media and shit, like the way that bands are, it's interesting to see. And I'll never actually know, you know, like what the difference between Gami getting one and not getting one would be. Yeah, it's weird. It's like in a weird state, but definitely like it's still fucking amazing to have, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing that I didn't really ever expect. People were telling me like, oh, I think you're going to get a Pitchfork review for this one, buddy. And I'm like, no way. But,
I did an interview with this guy Todd Burns, who runs a newsletter called Music Journalism Insider, and it's a newsletter about the music journalism industry. One of his questions was like, he was talking about like, where do you see the music journalism industry headed? And I was like, to a large degree, except for when like Pitchfork drops a review of like a band that everyone else is just like excited to see reviewed. Music journalism is mostly read by other music journalists. So you're definitely right that it's in like a very different era than it was like. It's no longer the time where it can make or break a band, and that is now like up to Twitter. Like,
yeah,
fuck. Imagine if you like dropped some knife merch, you'd be dead in the water like a month.
Shit. Whoa. I wanted to make Origami Angel shields.
That's so dope.
Just to promote safety. But now I feel like...
Oh wait, you weren't going to make swords and shields?
That'd be kind of cool, right?
Pokemon tie-in? Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just playing Shield before.
Sponsorship. Imagine if you got like a Pokemon sponsorship, or a Nintendo sponsorship, I mean.
Yeah. I was joking the other day, because someone asked me about something on an Instagram live stream. I talked about like the new Mystery Dungeon game that they released. And someone was like, "There's no way that you like that shit, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." I'm like, "They don't even pay me to say this." Ha ha ha. You know, like, because it was really weird. Like, for whatever reason, I went into like a detail of it sounded like a game review for a second, which was stupid. But yeah, that'd be kind of cool, you know. Like if they would just come and give me free games. I'm not saying anything, but you know, if Nintendo's listening right now, you know,
this just makes me feel like. This just makes me feel like I want to see you on Game Grumps.
Yeah, I might start Twitch streaming like ROM hacks at some point if this shit lasts longer than like the next 2 weeks.
I mean, fuck, you could make a fortune.
I might just do it for the hangs. I might just do it because I'd probably do it anyway, like play the game anyway, and I'll just be like, F it, this time I'm gonna get MFs in this chat. One time me and Lex did a Twitch stream. Oh, what were you saying?
The guy from Free Throw is like a kind of medium level Twitch streamer.
Yeah, and also Dan from Dan formerly of Real Friends used to Twitch stream. I don't know if they still do, but I remember seeing Dan on Twitter being like, "I'm about to stream," and there'd be like a shit ton of people in the Twitch jump.
Wait, is Dan? Cool. Is Dan Lambton no longer in Real Friends?
Yeah, you didn't see that? Real Friends
No.
is continuing without Dan Lambton.
What the fuck? That's weird.
Strange, right?
They're gonna pivot back to Bony Eyes. That's what they're gonna do. Because I feel like having Dan in the band really pushed back on like Kyle's songwriting. Kind of created a better balance. Never mind. Let's go back to the album.
The album comes out November 15th. Everyone says AOTY immediately. Then y'all did like a tour with Cheem, and then you did the tour with a bunch of bands on a bunch of dates. All the shows look extra insane. Like I think,
yeah, they're really cool.
Just like at capacity.
Was you at the Milwaukee show?
Yeah.
Yeah, the show was really fun. Yeah, all those shows and that entire tour was crazy. I didn't know until I got home. I had bronchitis the entire time.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure it wasn't Corona?
I'm pretty sure, because honestly, my symptoms were like way worse than like the beginning stages of like what people say, like, oh, I had this and that. I was like, I'm real sick, yo. I kept being like, yo, I'm fucking sick. Like, you think we should stop at urgent care? MS would be like, nah, you just getting over a cold, bro. Or maybe it was the Rona, but the thing is, like, I don't know. It was pretty fucking intense. And it was weird. I had this whole weird doctor experience when I got home, but then I eventually, like, I had such a bad ear infection. I thought my eardrum was about to fucking blow up. I went to the urgent care, and I was like, yo, like, my doctor, like, physician, whatever, told me I was good, but, like, am I, like, gonna die? Like, I don't know. I feel weird as shit right now. And they're like, yeah, you have 2 ear infections as a secondary infection, and you probably have had bronchitis for a month and a half.
Oh, fuck.
And I was like, and, like, I won't, like, get it, but I have, like, a pretty, like, weird respiratory condition as it is already. So I was like, I wonder if I just took, like, 20 years off my life or something.
Right.
But MS told me I was good. Yeah, it was a weird time. But it was a lot of fun. Let's just, yeah.
And then you announced this tour that's like all in like real venues and stuff now. That's postponed or whatever. So it seemed like
pushed back. Yeah, no, but it's cool. Like, this tour is like definitely like, because we booked that Gami Short Fictions tour like way before Summer City was even like starting the press cycle. I think we had booked it right around the time that we went on tour with Stars Hollow in the summer, maybe a little bit after that. But I remember like me and Alex were like, Alex Martin, that is, we were like big brain tour planning, because we were like, yo, they were like, Gami's going to release an LP before this, right? And I was like, absolutely. And they're like, well, Short Fictions is too. And I was like, ooh, shit. I love those tours where you book them like at the assumption that the band is like, you know, wherever Gami was at the time, you know, like 15, 20K monthly, whatever, however, you know, whatever, how big we were perceived by venues and stuff like that. And then just to like put out records that get some hype behind them. And 2 records that did get a lot of hype behind them, honestly, in Fate's Worse Than Death and Summer City, is just like pretty lucky that they both had like a positive reception. Cool that they came out within a month of each other, and then like super fucking sick that we were able to tour off of that. And then while the hype was still building, you know?
Right.
Always fun to do that.
Wasn't there a show with Glass Beach on it too?
Yeah, Glass Beach played the LA gig. It was really cool. Ian Cohen was there.
Really? That's so sick.
That's a very Ian Cohen lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Truthfully, it was super sick. Anything else? It was at a bowling alley.
That's sick.
It was crazy. It was awesome. I loved it. And we played Gilman in Berkeley, Bay Area, whatever specific city that is. It was super
legendary place. The Green Day place.
The Green Day place, yes. Ryan Ellery actually ran sound. Ryan Ellery, who records the Mom Jeans records and stuff, and the Just Friends stuff, and they have to be like the absolute best like live sound engineer we've ever had. Like, shit just sounded amazing. It was a really cool show. That whole tour was really like mind-blowing and amazing and super cool. I was sick the whole time though, you know, like I said. Every step forward, 2 steps back.
By the way, I was wrong. It is in Berkeley. Oops. Sorry.
It is in Berkeley? Oh. Dang. Well, Berkeley, Oakland, and what's that other one? San Francisco. They're all the same thing.
Yeah,
Not really.
It's all Silicon Valley, man.
It's all Bay Area.
All right, so I
They
have two
all
more.
like the Golden State Warriors.
Two more questions on my stuff. So Lex hosts Gami Direct in like February or something to update people on their merch and their vinyl orders, and also to slip in there that you've signed to Counterintuitive. It sounds like that was a no-brainer. Like, or were there any other bigwigs with like reaching out, seeing what you're doing and stuff?
People reached out,
Yeah.
People reached out, but to me, it's really important that the team that we have established would get to continue working together seamlessly, and adding someone into this team like Jake, who would kind of accept the fact that we have an idea of what we're doing team wise, and that he can add what he adds, and that we will learn from him. And there might be places where he can learn from us. It's for me, I feel like labels are very interesting, and I've obviously had a very unique history with record labels, being that the only one that I'd ever worked with was one of my best friends in the world ran it, like Lex ran Chatterbot, obviously. So that's a pretty good position to be in, being very good friends with someone. Obviously, I have a different view on what a record label should be or could be, So when we were like listening to stuff, for me, one of the most important things was like, not only do I want to find somebody who respects like our team and will allow this team to continue in the same way it is in like every single part of this team, I want to keep, I want someone to be okay with us recording a next record with Jake Chillwavve. I want somebody to be okay with us having Alex Martin continue to book our tours. I want somebody to be okay with us for us continuing to have Lex as our manager. I want someone to be not just okay with it, but in agreement with us that is the best move for us. I also wanted somebody who could see that. I feel like there's a lot of labels that'll come to you and kind of try to tell you what you're doing wrong, and like, this is why you need to sign with us, because we could take you to this next level, and things that you're not doing right now, this is what you've done, this, that, and the third, you can maximize this in a different way. For me, the first conversation with Jake that we had, he right off the bat just told us all this shit that he loved about what we were doing, just calling us legends for it, and obviously anyone who actually wants to sign is going to do that. But I know Jake, I knew that he was being genuine. I knew that he actually valued us, not only as musicians, as, record writers, whatever, but people who also plan rollouts, people who plan merch layouts, people who, get the art together for this record. He trusted us and respected us in every single facet. And I think that's really, to me, the most important thing in looking for a label, is somebody who knows that you have the vision of what this band can be. What are they going to do? They're just going to, add where they can. They're going to take your vision. They're going to do everything that they can to help that go as seamlessly as possible and add where they can. And I think that is what made Counterintuitive the perfect fit.
Well, that also just kind of answered my final question, which was like, how has navigated the music industry been for you? Because it seems like you've already surrounded yourself with folks who are DIY and know what they're like DIY, but they're also like professional. And it seems to be working perfect.
Yeah, I honestly, in my opinion, this has been the perfect trajectory for this band. And obviously, like, I'll say it, like, we are incredibly lucky to have worked with the people that we've worked with. And we're incredibly lucky that the people who have believed in us have stuck by our side and done what they can do to, help this band get to the level that they think that it can be on. I think that we do have a really tight knit team of people who want to give their all for this. And that, to me, is like, it's really like the biggest privilege on earth to have people on a team like this that are as committed to it as you are in every single facet, and obviously, like, yeah, like, we've had two pretty ideal label situations for like what the band that we were at the time and the band that we are now. I do feel really lucky. I feel, not to feel like blessed or whatever. I feel I'm grateful for the opportunities that we've been given and the people who believe in us. And I'm also very grateful that those people have turned out to be very genuine and have accepted us for what we do and continue to support us and push us and just help this team, like you said, be the team that has its foot in the DIY realm. I don't think I'm ever going to leave that area of my life. I don't want to, this is like what I've been a part of for like the last 8+ years. It's what makes me the person I am, not to, pinpoint it to that, but it's like, it's a very big part of my ideology is being in this scene and being a person connected to DIY, and having people like that within your camp is pretty important. And I feel like there's nothing diluting our message. There's nothing getting in the way right now of us being like, well, we want to do this and we want to sell our merch at this price and we want to tour with this band in these areas and play these venues. And there's no one saying, no, you can't do that. No one's saying you need a $75 windbreaker and anything like that. Nothing, that's not happening yet. So I'm grateful for that, because there's like, what you get from Gami is what we are, nothing we don't lose transparency because of some big boss in a black tie, telling us you better come with your quota for the month, 300K streams. Not that actually, I don't know. Like the other thing is I don't know how that works either.
No one's going like, we need you to do a tie-in with Razor scooters to reach the youth market.
Those sellouts.
So Somewhere City, concept album about Somewhere City, but like I feel like Somewhere City, the place, is a metaphor for like the larger concept that the album is built around, which is nostalgia. Is how I.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Effectively that, or like just any sort of form of escapism, which,
because like it seeps in on a musical level as well. Like
absolutely.
Some of it is intentional. I don't know if other bits of it are intentional, but like we're going to get into it, like some specific songs, but there's like some vocal melodies that literally remind me of like songs from the Pokemon anime.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would credit it as a pretty big musical influence on the record.
Or like the first riff in 24-Hour Drive-Thru sounds like ska influenced.
Hell yeah.
Then, of course, like Dr. Hoomst has like an easy core breakdown, but it doesn't sound easy core. It sounds like sludge mixed with easy core.
There we go.
And then the last beats and 666 Flags. Like this album is just like a melange of everything that was kind of hovering around separately in 1999, and then 20 years later, like some kids found it and put it in a blender and we're like, this is the album that defines like what DIY was in 1999 updated for Zoomers.
Honestly, that's like a little bit of like what I feel like it is. I feel like it is like that. It's like no influence is a bad influence on this record. It's like where it's weird to be like, we did this thing and no one else is doing it, because everybody says that, but it's like, when we wrote this, it was specifically like let's just be about our shit in the most unapologetic way that we can musically. Like I don't want to hold back from anything that we might want to do. Because it is about like what me and Pat wanted to put forward. Like this is like who we are as musicians. These are our influences. This is where we're gonna take it. This is how we're gonna make it different. This, where there are some more like emo pop whatever adjacent things, it's like, how are we going to make that our own? What influence are we going to add? Are we going to add a ska influence? Are we going to add a fucking easier chord break? Like it was that mentality, like while writing this, of like, we should do what we feel is right and not what you would typically do in a song. We shouldn't hold ourselves to any genre, really. And I mean, like, it was really fun to write in that way. It's just it's not limiting at all. It lets you kind of just be what you want, not to be super cliche, but cliches are cliches for a reason. I feel like I don't know, I definitely had a lot of fun writing and blending a lot of stuff together for this record, that I feel like if we went in with a different mentality, with a different message of the record, sorry, my headphones just almost died for a second.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, I feel like that is what makes like certain songwriters feel so like individually them, like because everyone steals from everything, but it's the way that you like synthesize all those influences and put it into one concise package that makes it. Because there's no song on this album that feels like, oh, okay, we tried out this idea for this song, and then we're gonna try a completely different, unrelated idea for this song, and it doesn't sound like a whole bunch of like parts mishmashed together. And like central song structure is a thing that I talk a lot about in the series, and like band's ability to like make everything kind of revolve around one idea. But there's a lot of like evolution of melodies that happens. There's like a logical through line through each one of the songs. Like songs blending into each other, and then of course it does like the loop at the end, which I have to imagine that when Prince Daddy did it, y'all were like, fuck, a little bit.
Yes. Okay. I'm about to switch headphones because I'm using like some dumb ones that are about to die right now. I'm about to put in the Apple ones with the connector, so my audio about to take a second. 1 second. Hold up. Okay.
And I do remember when the Prince Daddy album came out, I tweeted something like, DIY kids going nuts over the album looping like they never fucking heard Pink Floyd before. But I think that this album improves on the Prince Daddy thing a little bit in the way that, because Welcome To like literally references the air up here like within the song, so it does feel like thematically and lyrically and musically connected.
I think so. Like they both are so different in that, just like how they happen musically and like what they mean to the record, are very different. But I will say, we were on tour going to one of the last shows of the Stars Hollow tour when the full record stream came out for Cosmic Thrill Seekers, and we heard that and we were like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a damn, I'm mad that they did it. I was like, that's actually really cool, and it's interesting that like we had both chosen to do something like that, but that it meant different things to our record. Because I feel like with the Prince record, it kind of just gives another level of depth to the cyclical nature of those mental health habits.
Yeah, I feel like on Cosmic Thrill Seekers, it kind of represents the like how a bad trip feels like it's never going to end.
Yes, absolutely.
And then on Somewhere City, it feels more like I don't have to leave this place behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's definitely for ours is like more of a like this mindset doesn't have to go away type thing. Like it's more of a symbolism of like like exactly what you just said. You don't have to leave that because what it might be to you is completely unique to you, and you can keep that like forever. And then also musically, theirs kind of like comes out of nowhere, which I feel like, not to say that the loop does, but like how it has their fade out, and then and then the strums start like after that. For theirs, it's a little more like it's kind of like right when you think that it's over, it starts again.
There's like, it's like a false climax. Yeah,
and then it comes back into it, and then from like what that record's about, exactly, it feels like you might get out of that cycle, you might get out of that bad trip, and the whatever mental health plummet follows it, like that is the narrative of that record. But then right when you think it's over is like flashback, like, or whatever it is, just sinking deeper into that. Whereas ours, the thing continues, like the riff goes into itself and it's part of the last song, not just like after a fade. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. I think it's cool. And that's the other thing too, is when people are like, are you worried that like people are gonna say that, like Lexi was like, are you worried that people are gonna say this is a Cosmic Thrill Seekers rip, even though you had this way before? I was like, I'm more worried that they're gonna think it's the Wall rip.
Yeah. Isn't this where we came in?
Yeah. It's funny, but obviously Cosmic Thrill Seekers, one of the best records of the year. It's an amazing just journey for real, and it honestly, I feel like a little bit of a like connection to them. Like obviously not just we're on the same label now, but like it was cool that we both did that independently, and I kind of think it for me is just another cool thing that people talk about when talking about those records together, because they've been one of my favorite bands for a really long time. You know, it's cool to see our record in discussion with theirs, especially when I've seen like how amazing their record was and just how much work they put into it and how much of a huge epic it is. It's cool that they're in the same discussion or sentences. Sometimes it means a lot to me. So in a way that like I could see maybe getting pissed about something like that, but I was just kind of like, damn, that's so funny, you know, that we both did that. But it's cool, and I mean, I'm sure that they'd say the same thing, but from, you know, different perspective. It's not like they were looking up to Gami when they're 19.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they say, you know, I'm sure they'd be like, yeah, Gami's sick, you know, which is cool. So I'm glad it happened.
Kyle, do you have thoughts on Welcome To?
Not really. I mean, it's like the perfect intro, and I mean, the only note that I made about it when I was doing my listen was that the way that it starts, I just know that it's gonna have a very Origami Angel type of eruption eventually, and it does, and it's great.
Hell yeah! Thank you.
Well, that big like the Noos, sorry. It reminds me a lot of like that early emo revival era that we covered when we were doing like the 2011 to 2013 run. Like something about it feels very like the world is-esque, you know?
That feels like that part, and that song feels like the most emo revival on the record, you know? Just that sort of, I don't even know what the word is, like cathartic? No, I don't know. Just like that.
Cathartic, and it's also like communal, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I wasn't like, I was like, I'm write the emo revival song now. But it was like, when I wrote that, I was like, this is pretty sick. Reminds me of those emo bands. And it's cool. I'm cool. I'm glad that you think that, because that's sick. I think that's cute.
Hell yeah.
Just so I can get this on the podcast, I think Ellie, you told me this, but aren't you cousins with someone who was in the fucking pre-Algernon band?
Yes. Okay. So my cousin TJ was the drummer in Halfway to Holland.
Halfway to Holland, that was the name. Okay. Yeah.
That
band is so fucking sick.
Very
like
good.
I literally feel like Halfway to Holland is a huge part of this record's DNA, honestly.
No, thank you. Like, honestly, I've like shown people that I'd be like, this is honestly like where some Gami shit comes from. Like these riffs and like this energy, you know, and the presentation, and like I think like, and it was like no intention of Pat to like try to drum like TJ, but I feel like even some drum parts sound like Halfway to Holland drum parts, and I think that is one of the coolest parts about that band is just the energy of those tracks. It's really cool. Yeah, my cousin was in Halfway to Holland. He's still super influential in my life. Got me into a lot of shit. He was in another band with Joe Reinhardt called Like Lions. They were more like emo poppy. They had Anthony Green on a song, which is crazy. But
that's fucking sick.
It is sick. And I remember listening to that stuff. I was listening to that stuff when I was like 8, maybe, you know, like 7 or 8. And I remember getting into like cool new guitar music through his old bands, and then finding out about Algernon, like being a continuation of like the guitarist and the vocalist of like some of his old bands. And I was like, damn, this is crazy, you know, just getting into other Philly bands from there, because he is from Philly. And it I don't know, it was just like, that dude has had like a ton of influence on me, and yeah, best cousin you could ask for.
Right. That's awesome.
What's your favorite Halfway to Holland song?
The first track on the mixtape on YouTube.
Oh, it comes with the territory?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I had a demo on a radio player in my childhood with Halfway to Holland that was absolutely trackless. It was just a tape that played on a boombox that I had, and that was what I listened to when I was like 9 or 10. And
that makes you so fucking elite. I don't think you have any idea.
Well, the thing is, I never knew it. You know, like I never knew how epic it was. Until people told me about Half Holland. I was like, oh, you like that band? I was like, my cousin's in that. And it was always like my cousin was in this thing, but, you know, like I didn't know other people knew about it. And I never even really, like, the thing that I dove into was Like Lions. Like that was the band that I knew and like could download music of, because I couldn't find Halfway to Holland on iTunes. That was the thing.
Right.
I could find them on the tape that I had them on, and that was it. And I could ask my mom to ask his mom to send us other demos, and you know, like that was it. What I could find was Like Lions. That's how I got into Joe Reinhardt. I was like, oh shit, like these are like really cool guitar parts, interesting melodies. You know, this is new stuff, and it's coming out now. And that was like my thing as like when I was learning guitar as a kid. Like at this time, probably like 10 or 11, I was like, what the fuck is like out right now? That's cool, you know, like other than the Jonas Brothers. Like, what's this?
Naked Brothers Band.
Naked Brothers Band. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy. So it's weird to me that like people like some people in the corners of the internet are like, oh, like Halfway to Holland is like this legendary emo band and this shit, and I was just like, oh, like I used to listen to that shit when I was a kid, you know. Funny.
That makes me feel very warm and very cold at the same time.
Seriously. Like I said, it's just like it's a very weird thing to like have a cousin like that, and to me he's, you know, literally just some dude I see at Thanksgiving. To other people, he's a drummer in a legendary unknown Midwest emo band, Philly emo band. Let's say that.
Like emo easycore.
Straight up with those riffs,
Yeah.
double kick.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome, and it's like I think that's like where it comes back to is those riffs, like hearing that shit as a youngin and being like, oh, you can do this, because I'd never found a band that sounded exactly like them, you know, because he's a first and foremost he's a metalcore drummer. That's the most interesting thing about it. Is like,
Oh, you can hear it big time.
yeah, he just double kick all over the place and like and just, you know, hitting as hard as fucking humanly possible, and it's like Algernon's not necessarily the same as that, you know. It's still dope, different drum energy.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah, that's like when Halfway to Holland does like the scrams bits, they sound like heavier than most scrams because of the drumming.
Yeah, literally, yes.
Yeah.
Like they have that potential and that dynamic too, and that's like that just comes from like I don't know, just the band that he's been in before. Because everything before that for him was like super heavy stuff I don't even know about.
Hell yeah.
On Thanksgiving, he tried to show me a bunch of screamo bands when I was like 12. He was like, "You ever heard this band 400 Years?" And I was like,
Ha!
"Holy shit!" I was like, "I'm 12, man. What's up?"
Get your cousin on the podcast.
That'd be
All right, 24-hour drive through. So we already mentioned that like the opening riff is like ska influenced.
Hell yeah.
But it also like it doesn't sound like ska necessarily. It just has that like the same kind of tonality.
It has like that the chord relationship that you would expect from like a ska intro, you know?
Yeah, like a picking pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. If it came in with like a like faster a little bit, and then like you could totally expect some ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, some shit, you know, to come in after that, instead of going to like the like bigger chord drop thing. You know, Pat is like a ska MF. Like that's the ska guy
Really?
right there. I think.
Yeah, I've actually like reneged a lot on my ska hate, just because I found out that Dina hates ska way more than I do, and that made me like the ska stuff I liked much more intensely.
I'll be the first to say I don't know shit about ska. I know what Pat knows. I know what he plays, and I'm like, that's neat. Let's do that. Like that'd be fun. And that's Pat's thing. And so he'll just be like, yo, we should do some ska shit. And I'm like, bet. And I don't know, it just rubbed off on me in a way, I guess.
The lyrics of the song, there's tons of like painful specificity like in these lyrics. Like not just like Kenilworth Avenue to 193, but also fill up both of our water cups with Dr. Pepper and then act like we paid. Like I defy anyone who has ever been like 15 and gotten fast food with if they didn't do that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like those ridiculous like being like ridiculously specific is what makes things more relatable, as I always say. But I have heard like if I've heard like any critique of Gami, it is like about like the lyrics. And in the sense that like they feel immature or maybe like fleeting. I feel like one, I think the fleeting nature of the lyrics is like what makes them poignant.
Thank you.
Like yeah, like it takes like a lot to write about being young and make the person listening to it feel that way rather than just like remembering it, you know?
Absolutely. And there have been like obviously I've seen that criticism and shit like that, and everyone is entitled to that opinion, but there have also been tons of fucking 40-year-old people who say that Gami makes them feel like when they heard Wonder Years the first time. So like for every person that's out there saying that, oh, like, fuck, this shit is so childish, why can't you write like a 35-year-old man? Maybe I'll get there someday, but it's like, this is just where we are. This is like,
it's not childish, it's honest. Like,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like, what do you want me to like say something other than what I feel like or think? It's like, because that's just like it's just what I fucking do. It's just it feels honest to write about that.
Like if you were trying to reach and write some like Jesus Christ, I'm 26 type shit, like it would feel pretentious in the real way. Like trying to speak to something that you don't know. And if there's anything that like especially about this song, it's that it doesn't feel pretentious. It feels like genuinely trying to like make your friend feel better. And this song specifically, I think, like has a capacity to make you feel like you got a friend there who's trying to make you feel better.
Oh, thank you.
And there's plenty of older fest bands that write songs about cheering up their friends with drinking beer, and like I don't relate to that. I relate more to 24-hour drive-through. So
that's the other thing is like, who knows, like, but someday maybe I'll be able to write about fucking mortgages and having 3 kids, but like that's just not where I am right now. I can write about like what I know and what I've known, and if I ever get to the position where I do want to appeal to an audience of people that are over feeling anything other than remorse for their like upper middle class lives, maybe I'll start writing that. But it's like at this point it's like I'll write what I know about, and people who want to hear that shit and want to resonate it with it will, and I don't know.
That's punk as fuck.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, so is sip stealing. That's also punk.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about the sample?
What sample?
Like right before the whoa-ohs, the I don't know what it is, like the dot 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 dot.
Oh, that's just my voice.
Really?
Oh, hell yeah!
It's on that, so there's some stuff later. There's a couple electric guitar tracks there, like doubled with an acoustic guitar, like doing the same sort of thing, except not like I couldn't play all the notes the same way I could on the electric because it was easier to like hold on the electric. When I got to play the acoustic, it was like kind of hard to press on everything, so it's playing like a couple of the first notes of the chord, like the lower ones, and then there's 3-part harmonies of my vocals, all spread out throughout the stereo spectrum.
It seems so like it sounds so fucking like magical.
Yeah, well that's shout outs to Jake Checkaway for making our dry vocal track sound like dope as hell. There's a lot of like there's like higher vocals and stuff there too that he definitely has like super reverby and stuff like that. So I think that's just like how he mixed it or whatever. And I think like the combination of like the light acoustic guitars and stuff on the sides does that too. But yeah, people have asked me, like so many different people have been like, oh, that's definitely like mandolin on there, right? And I'm like, no, definitely. Oh, that's like Mario Kart and stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like very like bleepy blurpy kind of.
Yeah.
Nope. Oh Lord.
Also, I just really like the line, so just call my home from your mobile phone. I like when people say mobile phone instead of cell phone. I know here it works especially well because it works like with the rhyme scheme. Yeah. But also it reminds me of The Future Freaks Me Out by Motion City Soundtrack.
There you go. Okay. That's definitely like one I thought about during it. Another one is there's a song called Wind Me Up by the Bare Naked Ladies. And
oh no.
Yeah.
Gotta shut it down.
Shut it down. It's over. Go home. What the fuck does he say? He's like, throw your sticks and stones, throw your mobile phones. But the thing was, it was like 2003. So like it might have been okay to say it then. I don't know. I was like 5. So
I mean 2003 is also when Future Freaks Me Out came out, and
seriously?
Yeah, and Justin Pierre says it the correct way.
Yeah.
Fucking Canadians. Goddamn.
Mobile.
Oh, you're allowed to say mobile if you're Canadian or if you're from like Louisiana.
Yeah. Isn't there a place called Mobile?
It's Mobile.
Mobile.
Wow, it shows you how much I know.
All right, are we ready to move on?
Yes.
All right. 666 Flags. Kyle says this is the best song on the album. I disagree. It's the second best.
I think it might be my favorite.
It is really fucking good though. In your notes before you deleted it, Kyle, but
I just wrote Googling.
Yeah, you just wrote the word Googling.
Googling.
I thought it was it's a very jarring first lyric to hear, because I don't know, but then like I don't know if you're saying Danny Phantom and fucking Dr. Pepper all over your tracks. I mean, Googling, yeah, it fits into the vocabulary of Somewhere City.
Do y'all want to hear a fun fact?
Yes.
The very first TV show ever to use the word Googling was Buffy the Vampire Slayer in season 6.
Epic.
Yeah. Just another reason that show fucking rules. Goddamn the fucking blast beats that close out this track.
Beast mode.
It fucks me up because it feels genuinely heavy. It doesn't feel like a pop punk band throwing in like a heavy part for fun, or it doesn't even feel like when like Fall Out Boy or Newfound Glory would throw in like a nod to their hardcore roots. It just feels like a natural extension of the song's energy. Shout out to Jake again for the production, because it sounds like exactly the way it should. That actually reminds me, the bass on this album. You did the bass, right?
Yep.
Not that like the lack of bass takes away from the live show like whatsoever, but hearing out on the album and like hearing like all like the little nifty doodles like just adds like so much fucking character.
Hell yeah! So I've definitely like upped my live rig a lot too to like compensate for like space and shit.
The low end. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's getting nutty. It's cool.
I think that's also what makes like the climax of this song sound so fucking heavy, is just having that crunchy bass.
Yeah, no, it's great. Jake always kills it. Jake knows how to mix like everything and like make it sound exactly how it's supposed to, which is like crazy because it's like I don't know, like I anticipated this record would be way harder on us to like get to sound right, but like the hardest part of it for us was like just performing this, which obviously like the edge of like doing it ourselves was like taken off because Jake was recording it. Felt like super like comfortable, and then a couple weeks later he's sending us back like full mixes and stuff, and just like it's sounding exactly how he wanted this record to sound. And something that you can't really take for granted like as a musician is like having someone who really gets what you sound like and just is able to act on it. It's there's a level of comfort there with Jake that I'm just really grateful that we've like continued to work with him because of. It's just like he can make those parts that are like sparse and like stuff is more of like a background, like drums and guitar more of a background. It's more of like supposed to be like a vocal taking the front like position. He can make that do it easily, but then he can also make those blast beat sections like hit really 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 hard, and but have the guitars be balanced in them and have the bass, be where it's supposed to be in them. So it's like one thing to, perform on our end, but just like knowing that Jake is always going to get that shit right is just like, I don't know. It's super comforting to me as a musician and as someone who writes records to know that there's not going to be that challenge of like, we need this to be like this, like he just gets it right.
Word. What would a Gami Gang theme park look like?
That's a good question. There's gonna be like a wave pool, right? Because I like wave pools because they're epic.
Is the wave pool gonna be like the line to get in?
That's cool. Okay, so all right, yeah, Ellie, you can be my like co owner. Okay, first thing first, Gami Gang theme park, 100% free. It's sponsored by something. I don't know. We're going to find
Nintendo.
NASCAR.
Yeah, sponsored by NASCAR, so it's free. The wave pool being the line to get in, brilliant. But I would think we'd change it.
Maybe like a like a lazy river, and then it deposits you into the wave pool, and there's like different directions that you can go from the wave pool.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. Okay, so what about this? So it's like a parking lot, right? There's like a parking lot at like the top of like a parking garage, and then so like the entrance to the lazy river is this like, so this sounds like a water park, but this is just the water park section of the theme park. So anybody listening, don't worry, we're gonna get to the roller coasters eventually. So there's a big water slide, like one of those crazy ones, and then it puts you down a funnel, like one of those funnel ones. And
that's the Royal Flush. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it puts you into the lazy river. You go down that, you get your time, you get your, time to chill out, readjust after being dropped into the lazy river, and then it goes and funnels you out to this wave pool, and then that can take you to the different locations of water park. Maybe now there's also a way for you to get to the park that's planned. So the first thing that I want the most like redundant roller coaster of all time, like a 4-foot drop tower, just because like I like drop towers, except they scare the shit out of me when I get up to the top. So we got the 4-foot one, so it's like chill for people, but it just goes like a million times, but not too fast, like just chill. And it's like and then like there'll be like a screen that's just imagine this was all happening at once. It would be epic.
Listen, no hate, but that kind of just sounds like a complicated swing set.
Yeah, say what you want, but I mean, like, we're here for everybody, not just the drop tower fans.
Okay.
I'm playing. There's this roller coaster at Hershey Park, right? It's called the Fahrenheit something, and it drops in. I've never been on it, mind you. I'm way too scared too. But I saw a YouTube video from my music teacher in 3rd grade. I remember this specifically. It was like a point of view video. So it drops in at an angle, like it like drops in, like not down, like it goes inward. So it's like more than a 180-degree change of something. I don't really know what to say. It's more than 90. Fuck it. It's like a acute angle. Okay, there we go. That's where it drops in. So I want one of those, but instead of having to be an acute angle, you'll get one. Instead of it being like 85 or whatever it was, I want to drop that's at like 69 degrees, and then you go up, and then you go up later,
Nice.
and you get another one at 60, but instead of being 60, you do a loopy-loop first, so it's 420, So it's like 360 plus 60.
69 420. All right, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then there's going to be another one at, let's see, negative 49 degrees. Then you get your 311, okay? And that's like the main attraction. It'll just be called like Origami Angles.
Shit. That's good.
That's dope, right? The Origami Angles roller coaster. So it's got all those cool angles that are epic, and those numbers have nothing to do with anything. But they're just epic, That's definitely
This is some comedy bang bang level like improv art. I really like the genius description of this song, because it kind of takes what I was going to say. This song is about the discrepancy that a lot of creative-minded people face dealing with thoughts of extraordinary ambition paired with crippling self-doubt. But I know that there is nothing stopping me from being the person that you see on your TV. Like, I feel like that line's kind of like the key, like, to the whole rest of the song.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's kind of like what it's around. And I've never heard that genius description actually, so that's very spot on and crazy and good. So props to whoever wrote that. They definitely hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely about that like creative, cycle that you can get into. It's like, it's weird, especially for me, where I'll like be like so manic, like when writing, like I'll have these episodes where it's just like flow, like no sleep, whatever, just like writing shit and like writing a whole Somewhere City or half of it and stuff like that, and just like feeling like so, I don't know, so like unstoppable artistically, but then like the like screeching halt that you experience once you realize that like that could just be all an illusion in your mind, and that it might just all be bullshit, and that it's like crap. Very hard to deal with, especially when you're like the only melodic writer in a band. Very, very crazy. So yeah, that song is kind of like self-descriptive of that.
We're moving on to Dr. Hoomst. Kyle, take it.
So when I was listening to this and making notes, for some reason I was like obsessed with saying like, "Oh, this only has one verse. That's interesting." And then Six Six Flags doesn't have a chorus, and then this one has one verse. And you're just trimming the fat and getting to the fun parts after fun parts, and it's great. But the song is just like so positive, and I love it. And the easy core breakdown on here is perfect.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, this song I feel like is kind of where like the mentality of the record switches a little bit for a second to be more like F everything that's like holding me back or holding others back. You know, it's not to say that like this is the one personal narrative for a whole entire album. I actually view it as 10 different ones. But I don't know, I was actually worried about like how positive this song was. And also how just like point blank like a fucking Danny Phantom Happy Meal shit is. Like I never thought about that lyric. I just wrote it, sang it, recorded it, not in the studio but like as a demo, and I was like, you know, that's gonna be it, because that feels honest to me and it feels like what this song's about. And sure, that's probably been the main lyric in a long string of criticism as to why people think that we are immature, but it's
I mean, I actually have like complex thoughts about the Danny Phantom lyric. But no, it's well. First, I just want to say it's interesting that you feel like this is like a perspective switch on the record. Just because I kind of feel like it's like the thesis statement of the record. Like
definitely,
it's like a time machine.
More like that too.
It's like a time machine just brought me there. Like it feels like what Somewhere City is supposed to be. It's like your internal machine.
It definitely is like one of the tracks that's like, this is the record, where it's like I kind of feel like the first 3 tracks are all very different in their sort of introduction to the concept of the album. This one is the kind of one where the full actualized, fully realized concept comes to like fruition, I guess. It's like that's the first time you hear this like finished product, you know?
Yeah.
So definitely like it also serves as like a statement of like the internal mentality of it.
So I just checked it to make sure that Danny Phantom premiered before Avatar: The Last Airbender, which it did. But I feel like Danny Phantom was the first Nicktoon that because it was created by Butch Hartman. I feel like it still kind of like had a lot of like the zany energy of like the Fairly Odd Parents, but that show in retrospect kind of dealt with like a lot of mature, difficult themes that I struggle to think of like any pre-Adventure Time shows actually like tackled.
Definitely, like, I mean, Kid was sad as hell, right?
Yes.
And,
like
just the whole concept of like having something that's so crucial to your identity that you can't like let on to other people or else they'll crucify you for it is just like, I like the way it's presented in that show, and I feel like that's a reason that show is so relatable, like in a way, you know?
Yeah, so I was thinking about Danny Phantom and just like trying to connect it like thematically with Somewhere City, and I didn't rewatch any Danny Phantom because I didn't have time, but I did remember the Future Danny episode where Future Danny becomes a villain. That episode's like really emotionally fucked up, but to me that actually like weirdly ties into the theme of what Somewhere City is about, like the fact that looking into the future, there's a possibility that things can get fucked up and too much for you to handle, but like Somewhere City is about using nostalgia to kind of self-analyze and self-actualize.
Yeah.
And the way that Danny Phantom goes back, fixes some of his mistakes is kind of the way that Somewhere City gives you a place to unwind and figure out where you want to go with your life.
Damn, that is sick. I did not think of that specific instance when writing that line, but I mean, like, that's cool, and I'm gonna go with that, honestly.
Oh, listen, you'd never fucking know that I never actually finished my English major, because that was some lit analysis right there.
That was analysis. I also kind of think of like that whole idea is very like existential, right? Like you can have this whole future laid out in front of you where it, in the scope of Somewhere City, it might be like, you know, a future that you despise, you know, like the American like standard of like what life is, you know, something like that. And seeing that could be the same thing as like, you know, Danny's evil self or whatever. And just like having that whole like, no, like I don't have to be that shit. Like I can do everything in my power to erase the part of that, that might, like, or of whatever that would lead to that, you know, and just be like, this is who I am. This is who I am. And it's perfect for me. And that type of shit. Love a good existential Danny Phantom episode.
I think the most existential cartoon I watched growing up was Ed, Edd n Eddy, though.
Facts.
Yo, the episode where like everything like the animation starts falling apart and they like take Jimmy's outline away and he like literally melts. Like
that shit's crazy.
That was so fucked with me. All right, Say Less.
There we go.
So this is my favorite song on the album.
Interesting.
I love it when this is people's favorite song on the album. It's like I feel like, I don't know. I won't say it's slept on because I don't even really know. But like, I think it's slept on because I sleep on it, to be honest.
I feel like the reason that like 666 Flags is like Kyle's or yours favorite song is that like the friction between being ambitious and having low self-esteem is like much more central to maybe y'all's existential struggles. As someone who maybe has a divisive personality, I really fucking connect with a song that kind of contextualizes the feeling you have when like someone you thought was your friend is talking shit about you behind your back.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like pop punk or hardcore songs. Like a pop punk song would be like much more mopey about it, and a hardcore song would just be like, "You tranged and stabbed me in the back." You know, but Say Less just kind of feels like a very honest plea to be like taken seriously. And though I'm not the type to ever throw a fist over things like this, like solving things with violence is obviously something that like necessarily needs to happen sometimes, but like in a friend group where it just kind of feels like psychological torture to just have this like kind of unspoken friction, you do feel like smothered, like unable to actually like say your true feelings, so you just kind of like swallow it up, and then that breeds like a lot of self-doubt. So yeah, no, I really fucking love Say Less.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, that's it, you know.
I also am just happy that emo in 2019 has room for diss tracks.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like emo just diss tracks that are like, blah, you don't love me, blah blah blah, fuck this shit. That's like, you know, the emo pop punk side of it. I think it is like dope as hell to be like, I trusted you or looked up to you or something, and you honestly like fucked some shit up, and like for that, I'm just gonna say fuck you on the song. Like I'm gonna say fuck you on the hit album, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's like talking shit, which like everyone can deal with, I think, like because everyone talks shit, and like if you can't take it, then don't dish it out. But then there's like someone like actively trying to undermine you, like from behind your back, especially when they run in your same circles or like you have similar goals and want to be in a similar place. It just like is really toxic. I feel like it's the fact that the song is also catchy as fuck, like kind of like bolsters that dissonance of like being pissed off and having to like keep it under the surface.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you think that. Like I think that it's a cool thing to like try to make that anger or that frustration as like sing-alongable as possible. Not that that's a word, but you know, like that's just a way that you can get that shit out of you, you know? It's a way that you can let that dissolve. Stuff can seem so bottled up and you can be so tied down and feel so unheard because of somebody else. But like, if you hear a room of people saying some shit that you wrote about something, you're like, okay, yeah, like I know that I was not in the wrong here. I know that like I was wrong but it doesn't even really fucking matter, you know? Like this is why I do it. I do, you know? I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird song, pretty personal to me, but it's like, it's weird. I also felt really weird about writing a song where it's like, though I'm not the whole thing is like, I was like, this song sounds so like violent and aggressive. That led me to writing. I'm not the type to throw a fist over things like this, but I really like the chance to speak my mind, you know, like
your goddamn mind.
My God.
Someone highlighted this and said Ryland uses this word a lot, like a lot. It's kind of hilarious.
I never even realized that I was doing it until we listened to the record on the way back, like rough mixes on the way back from like tracking. And I was like, I say goddamn at least 10 times on this album. But that's fine. It's cool. I think I was like, maybe next record I could do something else, like find another word to say a lot, like motherfucking. I think that I might do that.
Yeah, thanks for letting me get like vulnerable with y'all.
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah.
Escape Rope.
I think this is the most aggressive sounding song on the record.
The most aggressive or most impressive?
Aggressive.
This one is like, I feel like a little bit of an outlier in that it kind of it does take the opposition. It doesn't in my headcanon, which I guess is the headcanon. I wrote the album. It does not take place in the city. It's not part of Summer City. It's kind of like the outsider perspective. So
is the song from the perspective of someone else then?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, there's two kind of ideas there, or two ideas in my mind of like what it is supposed to be, and it's both of them at the same time. One of them, it's like, it's about the negative mindset of someone who might criticize you for wanting to feel okay, you know, for not wanting to like suffer like everybody else. But I think it also has to do with, I think it's like a flashback, like as to like where we are in this like records journey, and it's the first song on the second side. I feel like it is like like a intro scene, black and white flashback, 1975, like or you know whatever, like just just some shit that's like it's not up to date with where we left off from side one. And I specifically thought of like whatever type of show you'd have where you come back after like a cliffhanger or something and they lead like or start a new arc with a flashback. It kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
Songs called
That's cool.
It's called Escape Rope.
Yeah, I was thinking about like how it's called Escape Rope, and the perspective of the song feels like wanting to just immediately dip out of a situation, like when you're in a dungeon and you're like, fuck this, I need to get out and apply escape rope. But like now that you mentioned it's from like a flashback, it's like taking the escape rope to Somewhere City, man.
Yeah, that's kind of like what the title's supposed to mean.
Word. Okay.
You know, like,
I'm glad I'm piecing this together.
Obviously, like escape rope is a Pokemon item. So many people call that song Escape Room, and people say Escape Room to me, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they'll be like, the song, and I'll be like, oh, because like it takes me a second. Like I'm like, escape room, like the thing you do with people, the thing they do for
the
like
team builder,
leading exercises for AmeriCorps jobs, that type of thing. Oh, you're talking about a song or okay, you know, whatever. And I'm not gonna be like, oh, don't you mean escape rope? But it always takes me off guard for a second when someone's like escape room, and I'm like, huh? But yeah, for me, it's like an outlier on the album. And I personally like when the first song on the second side of a record is like the outlier. I like, there's a couple positions that I like. I think about like the geography of an album a lot in terms of like track
sequencing.
Yeah, sequencing, stuff like that. But just like what means what to an album and where. It's almost like a fleeting concept now that like stuff is so streaming based, like a side of a record. But with this one, it works just because it's 10 songs and you got the first 5 and you got the second 5. Whether or not, you know, it is felt by anybody else or if it's apparent, I still think it's like a meaningful tactic, like in any sort of story thing, to have something like that in the second half, like that leads it off. That's just a little bit different than what you've heard before. Also, tonality, I feel like it's the first time it taps into that sort of aggressiveness and not necessarily majory music wise, you know?
I don't think the song is the most aggressive on the album. I do think that is 666 Flags. But
me too, kind of.
Lyrically, the song is like absolutely the darkest on the album.
For sure. It is definitely, I feel like, the an outlier because of that, where it is like the most pessimistic song. I remember people asking me like how I was gonna fit it in. Like I showed Lex a demo of it, and it's like, how is this gonna fit in? And I was like, don't worry, like I think I know. Like, and the way that it transitions into the next song goes with the idea of it being a flashback. Like, and like the idea was very visual to me, having it black and white, this whole 2-minute 30-second song, and then this whole build up, and then just like a cut, like
like a drop,
title track riff start. And it goes to full color, like Wizard of Oz style. Not to Prince Daddy again, but
yeah, I really like the repetition of "So Go," like, because that's like the ultimate like fed up, get out of my hairline, right? Like just go then. Damn, now that you thematically explained it, the way it segues into title track is fucking sick. I think like the vocal cadence of the song is really, really good.
Thank you so much.
This is the title track is specifically the song where I was like, oh shit, this sounds like Pokemon music.
Hell yeah. Those chords like feel like Gen 3 like Rustboro City to me.
Yes.
Like
yes, 100%.
First gym leader battle, like you just beat them and you're about to go get the Dex Nav or whatever it's called, like the Poke Nav from the dude. It sounds like that type of, like those chords have that same type of pull to me, which is sick. I'm so glad that you hear that, because like that's just how it feels, you know? It's something I tap into a lot by accident, and then I'm just like, you know what, that's sick. Like I'm definitely keeping that.
Yeah, it's got that like same like watery, like airy type feel, you know? Yeah.
If that was like 8-bit and like instead of the guitar strumming, if it was a little swung like
yeah.
It sounds like what plays in like the stores in those video games. It just it's how it is. I kind of want to make an 8-bit version now.
Fuck yeah. But simultaneously it's like very, very propulsive. God damn. Kyle has no more notes, by the way.
Nope. I gave up there.
Kyle's like, those last 3 songs fucking suck. We'll talk about the first 6. The title track is one that I didn't expect people to like that much, but it's one of the ones that like gets the most reception live, which is really cool. It's interesting because like it's one of the only songs where there's like a part where I'm not really playing on it. Like for the verse, like where I'm singing, it's like I'm just holding out this chord. And the first couple times he played that, like, it's, you know, it's just Pat playing the drum part. I'm like, what do I do? Like, I just realized, and I was like, I've never done this. Like, where I just hold out a chord and I'm not strumming and I'm like singing and shit. I'm like, do I grab the mic? Do I like Barry Johnson this? Do I give it to somebody else? Like, what do I do? I'm so used to playing the chord and singing at the same time always. I was like, I have a hand free. I was like, I have 2 hands free. I just strum the open guitar. I was like, what do I do? Should I take my hair down? Like, I can do anything. But yeah, I love playing that one a lot too. I love Pat's little breakdown section.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I like how. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can't remember whose idea that was to like chunkify that riff. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say like it kind of like it's very like logical in the flow of the album, because you have like Dr. Hoomst, which is like, oh, this is what like life can be when you step away from all the bullshit, and then you go back to the bullshit with Say Less, and then kind of like trace back to the roots of it with Escape Room, and then the title track is just like kind of like, oh, remember Dr. Hoomst, this is how we get back.
Absolutely. Yeah, it kind of feels like, to me, it's like it's that narrative and narrator of Dr. Hoomst, but in like a more like, I guess, like realized form, like an adjusted form, you know, like someone who's like used to feeling like that and just kind of communicating to others instead of communicating for themselves, you know?
I mean, not to bring it back to Pokemon, but it does feel like Professor Oak, like at the beginning of games.
That's fine. Bring it back to Pokemon as much as you want. That's perfect. That's what I want. You know that. That's dope. Hell yeah. That's what I'm gonna start saying. I'm gonna be like, this song written by Professor Oak. I hope someone writes the genius. This song is from the perspective of Professor Oak.
All right, I'm making a Genius account specifically for that.
Hell yeah. This song is actually about Professor Oak.
All right, Skeleton Key. We're heading into like the home stretch of the album here.
Home stretch. The big 3.
Big props for actually getting away with the math rock woo.
Thank you. I was definitely like holding out for that one. We never did the math rock woo before. You know, the pause woo.
Yeah.
At least
That's
that way.
surprising.
And I was like, should we do it right? And it was like, you can do that once, you know, like in that way. And the way that like the strumming guitar came in with that, I was like, if we didn't do a woo here, I would feel bad.
Yeah. So like normally it's like don't say it, but here I was like, you better fucking say it.
No, I'm happy we did that just because like now we got the woo out of the way, you know. And I remember we actually had this discussion on the podcast before about the woos. I can't remember which one it was.
It was probably the one with Third Row Records.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like fuck woos, and I was like, I think woos are kind of cool. You know, I had this in the back pocket. But
I'm sorry. Did you say fuck woo? Watch that fucking Hulu series. I'll take it back.
Oh yeah, I bet. But then I think Ellie, you were like, I'd love a Midwestern you betcha before it dropped. And I was like, that'd be so sick. I'm thinking like maybe we could do I want to do a yeah, like yeah would be really cool.
I feel like the time for like a saw is well over, but like maybe in 2 years when it's like nostalgic to do a saw, like that'd be cool.
A damn is cool.
It would be fucked up if this conversation is the only thing we had to say about Skeleton Key.
Moving on to find. It's like,
Is the Skeleton Key the key to Somewhere City?
Yeah. In my head, it is. It serves, you know, more than one purpose because I feel like the Skeleton Key. It's weird because what I knew a Skeleton Key as was something from like video games that unlock everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's also, you know, like actual real life skeleton keys that are just keys that look like, you know, weird. But then also there are real life keys that open everything. So for me, it was like, this is like the only song on the record that has anything that could relate to romantic type of love, but it's not romantic. I've seen people call it a love song before. It's not really like that type. It's more like a, not familial, but like
platonic love.
Yeah, like human compassion, platonic. I was gonna say platonic just because I feel like, but honestly, to an extent, yeah. I don't know. That's just like where I felt like writing that song was. It's not about like anyone or anything in specific. Actually, if it's anything in specific, it's about being away from something that you're comfortable in. Like, so it's about like touring low key, and then just like how you adjust to being away from something or someone that is like really important to you, and just like, you know, what they mean to you, what it means to you, whatever. It's like at the same time as it's like that. I was just gonna make the deeper connection. What was it? It's also like how that person relates to the idea of this city or the mindset or whatever it is, you know, and how to tap into that mindset even when you're away. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
As far as like a narrative song on this record, it definitely has a more like oddball twist to it, but at the same time, it's definitely still within that realm. And yeah, just that Skeleton Key is like, it could be your homies, it could be your partner, it could be honestly like your parents or your sibling or anything like that. It's just like something that like brings you back and opens everything to you, you know? And then my favorite thing was I showed someone the chorus before I had the part after the chorus. And the chorus to me is the, I hope you know everything you do is special to me, you're my Skeleton Key. And someone said, what the hell does that mean? And after I was like, do you even have to ask me? So it was like,
you're like, this song's definitely not about you then, fucker.
Yeah, but that's where I got the next lyric that was like, do you even have to ask me? You know, I want to be there with you or whatever.
That's cute.
But yeah, it's kind of, it's one that I like forget that I'm proud of writing. But then when I listen to it, I'm like, damn, Skeleton Key like low key goes hard.
I thought that it kind of sounded like a closer song. I know that the actual closer on this album is more than a closer. It wraps up the entire thing. But like, if this one was the final song, I thought that would be like a good ending to the album.
Hell yeah. Honestly, I feel like where it come from, I feel like all of the last 3 songs could be closers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a home stretch in the truest sense. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
just kind of like tackling all the themes. I do feel like the air up here is more of like an epilogue, and Find Your Throne is like the real closer, because Find
There
Your
you go.
Throne, much more than like even the title track or Dr. Whomst, is like the most positive song on the album.
It's the song.
Yeah.
It's. I think it is the best song that I've ever written. It is probably, at the end of the day, my favorite and the most important Origami Angel song to me. Yeah.
I mean, like literally every millisecond of this track is a hook, you know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But also like it feels kind of like the classic like pop punk "I Love My Friend" song.
Hell yeah.
You know, like I feel like in the Pitchfork review, Ian Cohn was really hammering on like the skate punk thing, but I honestly didn't hear like very much skate punk influence in this record.
I haven't skated a day in my life. I'm playing, but that's actually true. The first time I tried to drop in, I broke my wrist.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
But like really, like if I was going to pick like a pop punk subgenre to tie it back to, it would be like the early like Man Overboard, the Wonder Years, Fireworks era. And
I
this
think
song is
that makes
definitely
sense.
like this song is definitely like in that lane. And it feels both like a pep talk to like yourself and also everyone around you.
Yeah,
Like,
that's how it feels to sing it too, like to like write it and shit, and then perform it. It's just like it feels like that song for me is not. It's like not many of these songs are actually me. You know, it's like these songs are like what I want to be. You know, and specifically like this one. Like this is the one that's like I want to be a person that instills hope in others, but also myself. You know, like also I want to be a person that can self-sufficiently bring myself back up from when I inevitably, you know, fall deep down that cycle again. And it's like that's exactly what this song embodies. It's just being like a voice more than yourself. It's just being like being something that can like let the littlest light shine. You know, not to be like cliche again, but like.
Is any of that a response to how a lot of twinkle bands, kind of contemporary twinkle bands, write sad songs and just kind of write them so they can just keep drowning in them?
A lot of it is a response to me doing that, honestly.
Okay. All right.
Or feeling myself do that, and it's not like I'm not going to continue to do that in the future too. But a lot of it's like a check on myself.
right.
Why are you like letting yourself do this? Like, is this even like? Do you even know what it's like to feel anything else at this point? And that's like a lot of what this record is. You know, it's like a check to myself to be like, are you fucking sure you want to do this? Are you sure that this is the best way to, you know, go about art that you love to make? Is to like make art that makes you feel like shit. And honestly, nothing like is a true terrible offender of that in our discography. But it's like even just from like a mindset state, it's kind of like that. But definitely not like a response to like any particular bands that like continue to do that, because honestly, like I think everybody has an equal right to write about whatever they want to, you know, whether or not it is hyperbole or just matter of fact of like where they are in their mental health journey. Is like I could never try to criticize somebody else for like continuing to do that. I do like to see growth, but it's not something that's necessary. And honestly, people, you know, art is art, and it's not for me necessarily if it doesn't need to be. You know, people make that first and foremost for themselves. And that's true with this record too. You know.
So, this just popped into my head, like, because I was looking at "You're the Goddamn King of the Universe." I was like, okay, what if Escape Rope is like the panel of that meme where like the little skinny kid with glasses is on the internet, and he's like posting asking for advice, and then title track Skeleton Key and Find Your Throne is like all the buff chads being like, keep your head up, king. Here's here's some suggestions, can't wait to see what you do. Like,
that's it. Yo, that's great. Holy shit. You should make that. You should post that. It'd be great. I'd retweet it if I had a Twitter.
yeah.
It'd be great.
And all right, we're heading into final song here. Oh shit, dude. The air up here is this is y'all's I just want to sell out my funeral / what a catch, Donnie.
I want to watch too. Yeah, I definitely agree. I get that comparison. I get that thing because it is, it's that reprise. It's that final song that means just what the album is. It doesn't mean like this song is a huge offender of the. This song doesn't mean anything close to what it actually does without the context of the album. You need this record in order to truly, I feel like, get this song. Obviously, not just musically, the other parts come back. Thematically, this is all intents and purposes. This is a closer. This is the closer for Somewhere City. And it might not be the type of mindset you'd want for a closer for another album, but just what this record is, it kind of juxtaposes musically and thematically a couple things that like really, when I wrote it, tied it together in my head. Something that I definitely intended to do that I don't know if anybody's picked up on. So there's a musical run up in the beginning, or sorry, the end of Welcome To. Okay, so like there's like this musical like rising thing that happens before the City Never Lets Me Down, right?
Yeah.
The era here starts with like a not chromatic, but a melodic descending thing, which is kind of like literally the same thing backwards, just to kind of, I don't know, just to mirror that. It is supposed to mirror the beginning of that, the end of that song. The beginning is just supposed to mirror it. So there's like that. Like those two songs are obviously not just coupled by the loop at the end, but they're the bookended sort of actualized, quote unquote, perspectives of this record. One side you have the sort of Professor Oak vibe, and then the other side you have the whole existential statement of like whether or not this shit around me is fucked. Like I'm here, I never have to go back to that bullshit again, and I can be anything that I want to. Like I can be happy if I want to be. I don't know.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I defy anyone to like listen to this episode and not come away thinking that this was like one of the most artistically accomplished emo albums of 2019. Like,
thank you.
I don't know. I appreciate songwriting that feels like a well-oiled machine, and I appreciate it even more when it's able to like translate on like a larger thematic level to the entire album. So,
right.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this episode. It's probably the episode I've been most looking forward to since the 2014 episode. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
What won that? I'm joking. Could you imagine? Like, I don't even know anything else that came out to you. Obsessive's EPs.
But you're gonna miss it all.
Oh yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
It's weird having like a closer like this that does, it uses a lyric from every song on the record in the reprise. And there are a couple ways I thought about maybe going about it. I thought about maybe, like stringing together a bunch of sentences with all the lyrics and kind of having this like epic build or whatever into the end. But then it came clear to me, like, I was actually watching, have you ever seen the movie Amadeus, the Mozart thing?
No.
Yeah.
There's this moment where he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to use like 12-part polyphony and like have every single line that was sung earlier in this play come back and just fucking go ham. Like all of them go together at the same time and become this thing. And I was like, what if I could find 8 different lyrics and melodies from the record that if I put them on top of each other made sense lyrically and musically over the chords that would be played underneath it, and then after that made the explosion, and it's like, it's weird because even up to the point where we recorded it, even in demos that I recorded it, I was so under the impression, I was like, this is not going to work. We're going to have to cut this. I'm going to have to think of something else that we're going to do here. We're going to have to cut this. And then like we tracked everything and like Jake looped it all together and like just put it together and just gave us like a rough mix like while we were in his room. And like I started tearing up. Like I was like, it's actually not even like on some like, oh, my like prophecy, like my American Idiot is like I was like, oh my God, thank God I'm not gonna have to fucking think of something else to do here. I was like, it worked. I was like, everyone told me it would work. I told me it wouldn't work, and it worked. I was just so fucking blown away that it actually worked. I was like, that was just such a shot in the dark, but like, I don't know. I stuck it out, tried to make it work, and I feel like it ended up being one of the cooler parts of our discography. Especially, you know, I've never gotten the chance to listen to this record like through the first time, you know, like I wrote it. It's impossible for me to write this or listen to this without expecting something. But I hope that it like became clear to people eventually like what was happening and that it was like the coolest thing of all time. Just because when I thought of it, that's how it felt. You know, I felt like, wow, like this is really sick. I want to do it. And obviously it's not like the newest thing ever. Like fucking Yes has been doing reprises and stuff, you know, like since then. Mozart did it, so it's not like a groundbreaking thing, but I don't know, I was just really proud of it. It was kind of a step for me musically and conceptually that I think needed to happen in order to sort of have that confidence of like what I could do next, you know, and who knows.
I on like one last like conceptual note, I feel like this being the conclusion of the album and then taking the album as a whole, I feel like Somewhere City is kind of like a response to the older Gami lyric, I started bettering me because I wanted to be like you. And this record is starting to learn that when you better yourself, you take a step back and stop letting other people's perceptions of you define who you want to be.
That's literally nail on the head, better than I could ever even say it. But yeah, that there are lyrical allusions on this record to past Gami releases. You know, this doesn't live alone in a vacuum. Like all of our discography is part of the same thing, and Summer City is equally a part of it as Quiet Hours, Doing the Most, Gen 3 and The Split are. You know, like they all are in my, you know, brain. They're part of the same family, and they might tell different stories and, you know, live in different parts of the musical universe, but like they all coexist, you know, and none of them negate each other. And I think something that's kind of interesting, like with what you mentioned with like ROM hack to like now, it's like you can sort of see a little bit of a personal growth attached to Origami Angel. Like, at least I can see it like when I view the way that I thought about stuff, like when I wrote ROM hack versus when I wrote Find Your Throne, you know. And there was only really, you know, I wrote those songs probably both in 2018, 2017, 2018. I guess ROM hack was like really early 2018 and Find Your Throne was really late. But, you know, I wrote those within the same year, and like through some experiences that I had, you know, just like I could tell like how much I had grown as a songwriter and as a person. Just because I feel like that song is like the conclusion, like ROM hack 2, but this time, you know, they fist fight. I don't know.
Fuck yeah. And with that, that's the cap on Somewhere City.
Yeah, 3 hours.
Yeah.
3-hour monster.
Thank you so much, Ryland. This was like, honestly, like
I love
kind of. It was kind of a beautiful episode, I think.
Yeah.
I think so too. Honestly, I fucking love when y'all have me on here. So thank y'all so much for having me.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Or the final full album episode, and I'm really glad that we got to do it with this album, because like this seemed like you have crystallized a lot of the moments leading up to this record, and it was really cool that they were still like fresh, but like they seem like you remember so many like these bigger moments that we brought up, and it's really cool.
Absolutely.
That like none of it's been kind of like, were we touring with that band at that time? It's all just like right there. So it's awesome.
Oh yeah, it is all right there. It's so recent too, you know, just like it's super within recent memory. And yeah, I'm glad that we had to talk about this, you know, like now instead of in like 3 years, and I'd be like, I think that we did this. So, like, no, it's very fresh in my mind, and you know, I didn't know that this was like the end of the year. Episode. I didn't expect it, so I thought we were just on to talk about, you know, the record, but not in that context. So that's pretty cool. So thank you to the people, if y'all are listening to this, who voted for us. If you didn't, I'm really sorry. It's like, nah. Everyone knows there's a fucking ton of great albums that came out in 2019. I'm just, honored to be in the same sentence as a lot of those. And yeah, thank y'all again.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.